Hello Internet, Ben here with another little update. I've got my cat sleeping behind me, which is why I'm sitting here. I was sitting here last time right on the floor, so I wasn't going to, I don't know, I don't usually sit on the floor. It's light out now. The reason I was doing it last time was it was dark, so I wanted to be close to the lamps. Now the reason is there's a cat being cute. Oh god, the backwardsness will forever confuse me. Two little things I want to talk about. So yeah, this is the very next day. It's July 4th. I actually don't have any particular plans today. In previous years, I visited friends up in Nova, Northern Virginia, I should say. Yeah, I don't know who calls it Nova. I think just people who live in Northern Virginia. But I went to college up there, so I've got a lot of friends up there. But anyway, yeah, not doing that this year. Just kind of hanging out and working on a thing, which I wanted to talk about because it's the thing that last video I said I've been working on more than my writing. That was a very confusing way to say it. Let me just tell you what I'm doing. So I know I've talked about this before as well, but many years ago in 2004, when I was in college, I started a game called SciPets. It's a browser-based game. You take care of pets. It's based on psychology, which is what the PSY in SciPets is for. Mainly Maslow's hierarchy of needs was kind of the driving thing behind the pet's behaviors. And yeah, the whole point of the game for me was I wanted to simulate human behavior. I just thought it was such an interesting thing to try and do with a computer. And Maslow's hierarchy is particularly good just because it's like you have needs of the body. If those aren't met, then you can't work on, and needs of the body might sound whatever, that's like food, sleep. Maslow at the time also, Freud was around, talking about how everyone was fixated on sex to crazy degrees, right? And so Maslow too was like, yeah, needs of the body includes sex. If you're not getting sex, you won't be happy. But anyway, so let's talk about the other needs. So he says, okay, those are the needs of the body: food, sleep, sex, apparently, water, whatever, things like that. And then assuming all those things are met, then a human, according to this model, would worry about feeling safe. And then assuming that they are fed and everything and they're safe, then they would worry about feeling loved, which not necessarily romantic, but friends and things like that. And also romance, I think, is meant to be in there. And then self-esteem is the thing after that. And then if all of those needs are met, then you can do what Maslow called self-actualize, which in video game terms is gaining experience and leveling up, right? And you can see how that model is kind of interesting, right? So he's saying, for example, that if you don't feel safe, if you feel that your life is in danger, then you will not care about feeling loved, or you're not worried about your self-esteem. You need to be safe, right? But you might do very risky things if you felt that you weren't getting enough food. That's a lower level need. So if you really need food or water, you wouldn't worry about your own safety, right? And so when you phrase things that way, it kind of makes sense. But we also know that humans do all kinds of things that cross these different levels in ways that would contradict Maslow's hierarchy. People do very dangerous things because they don't feel loved, right? Or they don't feel self-esteem. I mean, people will suicide. I mean, that's harm to yourself, but because of this higher up need. So also people will put off food because they're doing something, and so you can see how it doesn't exactly work, but it works a little bit. And for computers, for programming, it's a very easy thing to model. It's a very clear, okay, pet doesn't feel fed, you haven't given enough food or hasn't eaten enough food, fine, then it doesn't worry about, you can take it very literally, to how it was described there, right? And then that gives you a model to start to program, okay, what will the pets do, or how will they behave? And it was initially going to be people, but then as I was working on the game, I wanted to have you interact with the creatures. So one of the things would be oh, you should be able to pet them or comfort them. I was like, well, it's a little weird if you're petting humans. I mean, that is what we do with children, essentially, right? We pet them, but we don't really call it that, right? So I just made them funny little animals. And the other problem, though, with making them animals is I didn't want them to be like dogs and cats and stuff, because then you would wonder why they care about leveling up and stuff, because the pets in this game would do things based on Dungeons and Dragons mechanics, actually. So they would have skills that were dexterity and crafts, and then they would say, great, they would roll those, essentially see how well they did, and then be like, cool, I took this fluff in your house and crafted it into cloth, and then maybe later they take a cloth with some dye and turn it into a green cloth, and then they turn that into a cloak, a green cloak, or whatever. So they would do all these crafting things. They would go out and hunt and gather and all this stuff. And I say they did like it's all past tense, but this game still exists. Very few people play it. I gave it away to a lady named Annette. She took over the game. I gave it away because I wasn't working on it anymore. Like 6-7 years later, I had a full-time job for the first time, programming full-time, and I just wasn't putting in the time in SciPets anymore, and I felt bad, so I gave it to someone else. Turns out she didn't really work on it, but that's, no worse than what I was doing, I guess. I mean, I kind of wish she had, but whatever. It's not my problem anymore, I guess you could say. I gave it to someone else. That being said, I've always kind of missed the game. It was a really cool place to just throw stuff in. I would put in like anything, sci-fi stuff, anything I read, just like anything bananas, like when I learned about Hollow Earth, let's not call it theory, but it was an idea people had even in like the Civil War. There was some dude who was like, I'm going to go and find the entrance to the inside of the Earth. And it all came, there was the history for it is so stupid. It was like, I don't think it was Isaac Newton, maybe it was, but someone suggested that I don't remember. I think people were trying to explain the poles. I think that's where it came from. People trying to explain why is there magnetic poles, and someone at the time, maybe it was Newton, thought that you could have spheres, concentric spheres in the Earth that were spinning somehow, and that's what did it. And I don't know if did they know that magnetism worked because things spun? Because that is how, in a way, that is kind of how it works in real life, right? We've got liquid iron and nickel and whatever else going on in the core, and they are spinning around, and that is what causes magnetism. So anyway, people took that idea and did crazy things with it, as people do with science, right? You're like, oh, dark matter, and then sci-fi shows are like, ooh, dark matter. It's like, no, guys, it's just matter. It's not. So whatever. This is what happens. Except, right, this was real life. People were looking for the Hollow Earth, and there was weird things like, oh, the Nazis were trying to map out subs from within the Hollow Earth, and like, so people said, I don't know, it was weird, right? So I would just learn like all this wacky, crazy stuff, whether it was real or fake, or stuff from mythology, religion, psychology, right, astronomy, and I'd throw it all in this game, and that was so fun because I love to learn about random stuff like that, right? Like the Hollow Earth, and it was a great place to just kind of be able to dump those ideas and manifest them in some way. So yeah, even today, like I'd do a thing, I'd learn about a new thing. I recently made this fermented drink called tepache, which is made from pineapple, and I learned about that and was like, oh, that'd be so great to have in SciPets. But I don't have SciPets, I don't work on it anymore. But I've started to re-implement it, right? Did I already say that part? That's what I've been rambling about all this for. I've started to remake like a totally from scratch version of the game, same concepts, Maslow's hierarchy, triangular love theory, which has nothing to do with love triangles, but Wikipedia it. I'll put a link in the description. Right, stuff from psychology, relationships, all that stuff. Sexuality, cooking, right? Just like everything. I wanted another place to put that, and SciPets was really fun. I at one time approached Annette and was interested. It's like, hey, maybe I could put things in the game again, and she agreed. And then I looked at the code and remembered how horrible it is. It was my very first project using PHP and MySQL, which are two languages, programming languages, and MySQL is whatever. That's a database thing, so it's not quite programmed, but you could program with it, but you shouldn't, but whatever. So yeah, it was my first project with those languages, so it's like a total mess. I don't think web frameworks weren't really a thing in 2004, I don't think. Certainly not to the degree they are now. Now we've got Symfony and Laravel, and I don't even know. There's like ones based on those. Wow, what are other big PHP frameworks? Why are those the only two I'm thinking of? My brain is blanking on the other. Silex, that was one of those smaller ones. I think that one's based on Symfony though. So anyway, and then JavaScript frameworks, right? There's a bajillion of those too, Vue and React and Angular and all these things that didn't exist at the time in 2004 that are super helpful. So yeah, certainly I want to be able to use those. And another thing that wasn't a thing in 2004 was smartphones. Isn't that crazy to think about? I don't know, it is for me. Mobile gaming was not a thing. So an original SciPets just does not it's not playable on a phone. It's a nightmare experience, and trying to modernize it would be a nightmare programming experience. So yeah, again, just building everything from scratch with all those modern things in mind. Yes, I want mobile. Yes, I want an API and a front end. They're completely separate, and I want to use modern frameworks and modern tools and yeah, modern design principles, all that stuff. So yeah, that's what I've been working on. It is online, so I'll link to it. I'm calling it for now Maslow's Pets. I don't really like that name, but I didn't want to call it SciPets or SciPets 2 or anything like that. That felt a little, I don't know, it's a little cheap. I did make a SciPets 8, which is also online, using modern tools and mobile awareness, I guess you'd say. But it's a totally different idea. It's like only barely related. It has none of the psychology elements. And I didn't like it because of that reason. I realized, no, that's what makes SciPets the interesting, neat thing it is. So whatever. And SciPets 8, why did I use a SciPets name? I shouldn't have. I should just trash it. But I'll link to it too if you want to check it out. It has a pixely aesthetic, which I don't know, it's probably not unique in a web game. And web games are a weird thing in general, right? I mean, it's kind of a weird. We've got Kingdom of Loathing still. That started up at around the same time SciPets did, and was very influential for SciPets' design. And that's still around, but I don't think web games are as much a thing as they really used to be. So what was I saying? Anyway, yeah, Maslow's Pets, bad name. I'll think of something different eventually. But domain names are cheap, so whatever, $12. I bought all the variations of whether there's S's or not on both of those words. 4 domain names, $48 a year. Who cares, right? Per year, like easy. Maybe other thing. Well, you know what? It's 10 minutes, so there's other stuff going on I could talk about. I'll just say briefly, I'm looking for a roommate. That was one of the things. So I mentioned I'm now part-time at work, which is like barely workable, right, financially. And one thing I realized, I don't know why it took me so long. I mean, it was only a couple days, but then I was like, wait, I could get a roommate. I have another room that I only really use when guests are over, like for holidays and stuff. I should just rent that out, and then it would be much more comfortable, right? So yeah, I mean, that's huge. That like, and then that's also crazy to think about. Like, wait, I could actually just work part-time forever in that situation. I think, like, again, it would be less money still than before, but like totally manageable. There's stuff I spend money on that I shouldn't, going out to eat and stuff like that. And there's a lot of ways when I look at it that I could save a lot of money. So, which is why I knew I could get away with doing the part-time thing. So anyway, so I wasn't going to talk about that, but then I did talk about that. There's more I could say, but maybe for another video or if people are curious. So anyway, 12 minutes, almost 13. I can never stick to under 10 minutes, apparently. I'll try harder next time. I'm getting there minute by minute. So I'm going to shut up now before it gets too long. Thanks again for watching, and goodbye.